Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're going to be talking specifically to women, but men, don't tune us out because y'all have women in your lives that this is great information for, and you might be part of the problem. So please join me in welcoming Beverley Glazer to our program today. Welcome, Beverley. How are you?
I'm just great, and it's a pleasure to talk to you today. Oh, and let me add that I speak to plenty of men too. It's interesting because a lot of my clients are women, and that was the area that I started out with. But men have said, Deb, like, what about me? And I said, okay, call me, and then we figure that out. But it's not a problem. The problem primarily was women's issues. As you know, women have different problems in life and business than men, but men are not excluded. So
I love it. So pay attention,
not at
guys.
all, not at all.
Well, let me tell people a little bit more about you, and then we'll jump into this because it's going to be a fascinating discussion. So Beverley Glazer, MA, CCC, ICF, is a work and life transition coach, speaker, podcast host, syndicated writer, and founder of Reinvent Impossible LLC. She helps accomplished women and men over 50 who are successful on paper but privately know something needs to change. With clinical training, business experience, and more than 35 years guiding others through extreme transitions, Beverley provides unique insights to make aligned decisions you can trust. She is also the host of the podcast, Aging with Purpose and Passion. I was honored to be a guest, and I'll have that link in the show notes so you can listen to that. Again, Beverley, welcome. How are you?
Thank you so much. Just great. Quite an introduction. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Well, you have had quite the background. So tell us a little bit more about how you got to where you are today.
Well, it's a story. It certainly is a story. And we all have stories. But it started really, I never really intended on being an entrepreneur. But basically, when I look back on it, it must have been in my DNA because I was always creating, whether it was a business or whether it was art, or I was always interested in story. And what I did is followed the art route and the creativity and was interested in Indigenous art. And once I was interested in Indigenous art, I, believe it or not, founded a company without knowing what I was doing, which is really the truth. I was quite young, but I was working up in Arctic communities and bringing beautiful, incredible art into corporate. And when I was up there, Deb, I saw the hardships that many people up there have endured. That was my journey that brought me back to school. And what I did throughout, got new degrees, et cetera, and started a therapy practice and counseling, working with drugs, with alcohol, which led me into many different worlds. And I've worked with people in witness protection as well as up to the boardroom. And throughout that journey, I realized I'm helping people make tremendous transitions. And when I decided to be a coach, because I learned more and more about coaching, to give people more access, because everybody has problems, but not everybody needs therapy. And so what I really have created, once again, back to creation, is I've created a business and a company to help people, which is custom coaching solutions. I help them answer the questions that keep them up at night. And that sounds a bit bizarre, but it's really not.
Right.
What it is we all know what we have to do, but why don't we do it? And during COVID, where a lot of things change, I had the time to start my podcast, which is Aging with Purpose and Passion. The reason for that was that we all overcome challenges, and we are who we are because of our challenges.
Right.
Now, we wear our badges all the time. You know, we were just talking about, oh, I'm a this and I'm a that and I'm whatever. Well, I'm a human. And I work with billionaires. I've worked with billionaires. I work with very capable people. And we all have to get down to being who we really are to get where we want to be. It sounds very coachy, but it's really true, because it's not only within us. Why do we do what we do? We're trained. We have tools. And often through the years, those tools have made us extremely successful, but they've also created a lot of damage in many other areas in their lives. So when we come past 50, and that's why I chose that magic number, things get more complicated. Marriages dissolve. Children are no longer there as the glue. There's the pressures of business. There's downsizing. There's all kinds of issues. And when you hire professionals to help you out, no question, they will give you the answers and you will know what to do. But does it really come from you? So to make those decisions, those decisions that are really bespoke, that come only from you, from your heart, very special, you have to feel aligned. And that's where my coaching comes in. That's where people kind of call me the Bev. Oh, I have to talk to the Bev, which I kind of love, because what it is just click, 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 click. Get that together. And then you feel so whole, so, the only word I could say is together and aligned. You know, so it can sound very woo-woo, but it's certainly not. Everything is science-based. Everything goes with neurology, etc. But what I always encourage is talk to me. Just call, you know. I'm not going to coach you. I have no agenda. What it is if I ask you a few questions, click, 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 you can move on to where you want. And should you want more, I'm there too, perhaps. I don't know. You can't work with everyone. You don't want to, but you can certainly help everyone. So I hope that explains my journey in a nutshell. I love helping people, and I just continue to help people, and I keep on evolving. And don't stand on platforms. But what I do is I do podcasts, and I go on podcasts, and I write, and people know me because I've been around for over 30 years. So they call me, or they found out about me, or that's really how I work. What can I tell you? You know, it's not about pushing and selling. Quite frankly, like I say, I'm too old for that. I've done it. I've stood on platforms. I've done many lectures. It's like right now, what I love to do is help. And that is what I do.
Right.
And so, yeah, you can call me a thinking strategist.
Right. Right. You know, and I love what you say on your website. You say, our sessions feel like a candid conversation with a friend who refuses to allow you to stay stuck and maybe put up with your BS, right? We laugh,
Always.
prep, we question old rules, and we build tools you can use immediately. And, you know, I love that, because yeah, there is a difference between what you do and coaching.
Totally.
And I, you know, the you know, like we mentioned, you know, you work with people over 50, and that is a very defined space. Before then, there's a lot of different things people are thinking about. Their family, they might still be trying to decide what the heck they want to do when they grow up. I mean, all those various things. And we hit that 50 mark, And technically, it's our halfway point, our midway point in life. Now, most people don't live to be 100, but we do kind of think of 50 as that break point. And it's those questions that keep us up in the middle of the night. The why am I still doing what I'm doing? Now that the kids are gone, what can I do? And I think in a lot of cases, especially with the women that I have talked with, they kept their same career, their same job, because it allowed them to raise that family, to be able to do all of those things. And now they're really thinking, what's next? But they don't know what's next, because if they knew what was next, they'd just go do it, right? But and I think a lot of it is, so many of them think, can I even do what's next? And so how do you work with people who are thinking, am I permitted to do what's next?
Right. Well, what happens is very often we're not thinking of what's next.
Mm-hmm.
We're thinking, meh.
Right.
I
Gotta get up, gotta go do whatever, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 50, 60, 70, whatever it is. This is what I know. This is what I do. I should retire now.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I complaining?
Mm-hmm.
That is why I work with successful women,
Mm-hmm.
because we look at our success
Mm-hmm.
and we say, and other people say, and they say to me,
Mm-hmm.
why are you still doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you just stop? Why is it necessary? Okay. Well, it's not necessary. Nothing is necessary. And I have nothing against pickleball. I think it was great.
Mm-hmm.
But for me to do it all day would make me feel terrible.
Right.
We can become busy with so many things. I've spoken to a client. I mean, this man is busy. He dedicates buildings. People, there are roads named after him, no question. And he says, Bev, I my wife wants me to retire. I've retired. I've still never been more busy in my life, but busy doing nothing.
Right. Busy work, right? You're just doing
Busy,
to do.
yeah. I'm contributing. I'm a benefactor. I'm blah blah. I'm a great granddad, but I don't feel good. This is what we're talking about with what's next. It's not about the next. It's what's there for me based on what I know, based on who I am.
Right.
And that's what I mean, the alignment. Okay. You can still play pickleball or golf or do whatever you like, sure. But is that what you really makes you feel whole? If it does, by all means, that's wonderful. But if it doesn't, we are really the first generation that, as you said, lives quite comfortably, many people to 100 and more. And, I know of someone right now, she's 107.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. And she was working in the university, McGill University, still doing research in neuropsychology till she reached 100, quite frankly. And they had this tremendous party for her all over the world, with universities contributing to McGill University neurology department. However, they were concerned that she would not be able to live to 100 to celebrate with them. However, she's now 107. I mean, this is remarkable. And so once we have retired, so to speak, what's next? That's what I look at. It's not retirement to do nothing. If you want to do nothing, fine. If you want to break, fine. And if you don't, now that's where the problem is. And this came to me, Deb, and it had a tremendous impact on me. I had no idea that it did. When my dad had to retire, and he had to retire at 65. He had to retire because that was the rules.
Right.
Okay?
Yes. You hit that age and you're forced to in many cases.
There was absolutely, he got his gold watch. This man was a doctor. He loved medicine. And he worked for the Queen Mary Veterans Hospital, which was a government hospital. And he worked there specifically because he said, look, I'm a doctor, and if I have to have a private practice and they're well enough to walk into my office, I'm not doing real medicine.
Right.
Can you imagine? He wanted to see
the challenge.
ambulances. He wanted to see the ambulances bring you in, right? So what he did when he retired, and and it was mortifying for him, he went into a private practice because he didn't want to stop. Okay. And a private practice you could do, but if you were working for something like a hospital, no. Well, our best years, if we've kept up, are ahead of us. I believe that. And we've built the base. Once we've reached 50 or so, we've built the base. So what we have to look is, although we are successful, and we can look back at our success and certainly do that and look at those achievements, do you really want to stop? Is that really you?
Right.
Okay. And you can travel. I love traveling. I love it all. But for me, I can't do it forever. So it wouldn't be enough. It wouldn't be that fulfilling for me unless I was journaling and putting out I don't know. You know what I mean? I needed something. And so that's where I am. That's what I do. Those are the questions. And when I'm working with clients, I don't give advice. I answer their questions.
Right.
And answer the questions, and people come up with the insights.
Right.
And they do. And before long, everything opens because we keep certain feelings only to ourselves. And those are the feelings, that's the real deal in all of us.
Right.
And sometimes, or I'd say more often than not, people share with me what they would never tell anybody. And like I said, I worked in witness protection, and I'm saying that lightly, but the whole idea is to make the transformation that comes from you. And the same person that has that problem with what do I do, whether you are living in an environment that's extremely intense, or you are playing that role in the boardroom, and you are that woman or man for that matter, who is there and knows what decisions they have to make. However, they also know that intense pressure that they have, that seriously the same person in witness protection feels. How strange is that? But we're all together. We're all human. And certain decisions that we happen to make impact our lives. They impact our family. They impact everything that falls in line with who we are. So, that's what I do, Deb.
I love it. I love it. And I mean, if you're someone who's around 50-ish and you love what you do and it's still your passion, great.
Sure.
Right. And there are people like that. But you mentioned that, it's a base. And for many people, it's, we feel like we're in a cage. We're doing what is, and I'm putting this in my air quotes, expected of us.
Yeah.
Right. And all those various things. But we are thinking of it as a cage. I'm trapped. I have to do, what I've done for the last 25 years. All of those things. And we feel selfish if we think there's got to be more. And we shouldn't, because we have to please ourselves. And so, one of the things that we hear, and this I'm sure, men and women both hear, is, well, we can't promote you because you're really, really good at what you do. We don't want to lose that. So that's the cage also, and so you're capable, you're good, but it's not that there's a glass ceiling. It is that there's a cage, and it's going to keep you there. And so how do we, bust out of that cage?
Well, I'd love to go back to the cage, the original cage. Okay. And the original cage goes right back to our education and our families of origin
Mm-hmm.
and who we are and who we were supposed to be.
Right.
And I can give an example
Mm-hmm.
of that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was always busting out of cages. I would be that kid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you could use it you could say it's creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Well, when I was brought up, it wasn't considered all that great. Okay.
Right.
Because doing math was not something that I particularly excelled at. And I didn't want to concentrate on that. That wasn't my thing. But believe me, when it had to do with literature or history, or etc., whatever. So what I eventually did branched into art, which is all very nice and good, but is it a living? Okay. Now I'm saying that in particular because in my family of origin, my dad was a doctor, my mother was a social worker. You're supposed to be a professional and you're going into art and theater. Are you
Right.
kidding
How does
me?
that help people?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
However, by busting out, I did it, and that had to do just with my personality. My other brother is a doctor, and the other one is a lawyer, but not me. Okay.
You just had to be
Eventually,
different.
but eventually it did bring me back to my calling, which really was helping people. And because of that, of course, what I wanted to do is continue with more education and not just have my BFA and continue and have a love of learning and teach others, because that came from me. But the point is, if you didn't have that breakout, which I had to do, and I had to evolve the way I did, and you were that good little girl. I'm thinking of one client now, and she did not know what to do. And she was always listening. And what she did is her father says, well, I think you should go into law. And she did. And she became a lawyer. But she knew on the first day when she went to law school, I hate this. And she went back to her family and said, let me quit. I hate this. And so they said, but you're good at it. Do it. It's a good job. So she did. Okay. And she was a very good lawyer. And then what happened was she was also a very good daughter, and she got married and she did all the right things. And
she pleased everybody.
Hated until her husband had an affair, and there went the marriage.
Yep.
Okay. And now what? She's stuck in a job that she's successful at. Her identity and she was a new mom. Her identity now is, well, I've now divorced. What do I do? Went back to the family, and they say, well, go back to law. And she says, I can't. I really hate it. What she did was, there was a family business, which was real estate. She did that. Okay. And she became very successful there too. But guess what? That wasn't something she wanted to do either. So what she did, and what I'm talking about as I go through this story in this thread, is within you what's right for you. And she said, I want to help people. And that is where she developed a business through law, helping more people, not doing such corporate law. Right. And the reason she went back to law is really because it paid the bills. Okay. And we do that. But then what happens is, now she's at the process of what next? Well, for her, she wants to help people, and she is creative, and she loves to serve, and she's creating now a whole new business in her area where she lives in Connecticut, where it's absolutely beautiful, where she is building a business that's has to do with cooking and writing cookbooks, etc., etc. It's slower. It's definitely not law. And she doesn't need to support herself anymore the way she did as she had to come up the ranks. This is what I'm talking about. When we reach a certain age and time and space in our life, we are blessed, if we're well enough, to be able to do what we really feel is right for us.
Right.
And when you're going through in a cage, you're not thinking right. You're following the rules. And so the cage, just the success that you have can be your cage because the golden paycheck is there.
Right,
The gold,
right.
you have
Yeah,
those
why
golden
would
handcuffs.
you give all of that up? What's wrong with you?
What exactly? And this is where you really have to say, do I really need this? Can I step out and take a look at what I really want and what my life is really about and what I really want to spend more time with? And, as you're building, when you're 20, 25, building a family, all the other pressures or what society is throwing at you, money, money, money. And, another thing to buy, another place to go, et cetera, et cetera. Once you get older, you can kind of sit back a little bit if you have the insight and evaluate it. And I mean, like I said, I've spoken to so many incredible people, and it's not about more. What it is about me. Who am I?
Right.
And who do I want to be?
Selfish.
No, it's not what do I want, it's who do I want to be. And that's what going through, I'm thinking of a client right now who happens to be male, is going through a very bitter divorce, but and the man is a lawyer and knows how to be very aggressive, but what are the consequences of that?
Right.
So what it is there's still a family and he does not want to shake it up. There's so many different intricate problems that go along with not the simple thing, which I just file papers and I'm out of here and I'm going to do whatever the heck I want. If you want to blow it all up, yes, go to the professionals. They'll tell you exactly what to do. If you want to do what you have to do, but you do it in such a way that you will come out as a person and you don't have to leave everybody in the dust, that's when this type of coaching comes in,
right?
Because you're more than just what you have to do. And so it's the same thing. Don't just look at success as success. That's great that you have it. Terrific. And you've earned it. But I've spoken to people so many times. I mean, women that have run companies. I'm talking women, men too. Men don't have this problem as much as women do. But what happens also is when you're on the speaking circuit and you have to speak among your industry and people are still looking at you. And what if you don't feel that you're really entitled? Yes, you're the president. I'm thinking of another story. The president of a company with 300 employees, literally, okay, but started as a family business. And although she knows she's a president and everybody says she's a president and, et cetera, she doesn't feel like that even when she goes talking and, to all kinds of people in many high places. I don't have to tell you, and doing all kinds of networking, et cetera. The feeling, to feel that she's not an imposter, to say, hey, I have earned this. That brings even more money into her company.
Right.
Although she's not coming to me for that reason, but now, of course, she is. The difference is you come from an imposter syndrome, but what you do is you leave with something else. Once you are the person that you should be, you attract more. You're able to stand up for your vision. You're able to let people see who you are and be that person in the room rather than, for instance, that person that has just gotten a divorce and left the family and, it was bitter and blah, blah, blah. No, what it is, you can still get that divorce. The wife and whatever, in this case, can be bitter, but you can make it less.
Right.
You can make it easier, and it can be a smooth transition. And when you first start, you think, oh no, this is never going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But we can be very surprised at how much power we have within us
Mm-hmm.
to make changes
Mm-hmm.
if we're not thinking, I can't.
Right, right. I'm stuck, but I can't make any changes, right?
Right.
And I mean, I was thinking of the example, of the woman who was the president of the company, and she might still love that company. That is her passion. And so maybe it's that she goes into a different role, and so maybe she's not the president any longer, but she's the, you could make up titles, all sorts of things. If say it's a company that, maybe she becomes the head inventor. Because a lot of times what happens as we get promoted through things is we get promoted to something that we really didn't want to do. As the business owner, that happens a lot, right? You started your business because you had a passion for that. And then you became the president, the CEO, the person in charge, all of those things. And you no longer get to even do what it was that was your passion. I was talking to somebody who is a landscape artist, right? Loves getting his fingers in the dirt, putting things together, all of those things. And he doesn't do that anymore because he's in charge. So he's in the office. He's, going to the networking meetings. He's, firing, hiring, running payroll, doing all of those things. And he no longer is doing what he loves to do, and so he's thinking of, stepping completely out. That may or may not work, or maybe it's that he does hire somebody else to run it and he goes back to being the person who has his fingers in the dirt. And I think that's, one of the things that we see is people, and right there, well, he's the president. He's got this big, why shouldn't he be happy? That's not what
Right.
makes him happy. It was playing in the dirt that made him happy. But we get stuck in those roles. People tell us, well, this is what's expected. I was having this conversation in a mastermind group that I'm part of. And, it's funny because we're all about a certain age. We're all women. And somehow we've made that shift of I'm doing what I want to do and not what is expected of me. Even by other people in the group, and knowing, okay, that's fine. I actually was chatting with some of them yesterday and I said, I, in essence, took an entire month off. I had 2 different trips that were, I was gone for quite a bit. And I'm having trouble getting back into the flow of things. And there is a little voice in my head saying, well, maybe that's trying to tell you something, right? And now I love what I do. And so I'll get back into the flow of it. But, it does kind of happen where we think, what the heck happened? Where did I lose what I love doing? And it really comes down to, who am I being loyal to? Yeah, we're being loyal to our family. We're being loyal to our employees, our clients, all of those things. But we get lost in the shuffle. And,
Yeah.
and that's, I think, probably one of the hardest things for people to come to the realization of is, who am I being loyal to?
Yeah. Well, I love what you're saying right there, because that's why when people do coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a coach too,
Mm-hmm.
because I love expanding, and the more
Mm-hmm.
I go, the more I grow. And you cannot
Mm-hmm.
help others
Mm-hmm.
on a higher level unless you
Mm-hmm.
also have evolved.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is, if we're talking among our peers all the time,
Mm-hmm.
we get back what we want to hear.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And what I love being is not the most important person in the room,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where I'm learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so the people that come to me come for that very reason. It's they come with the problem. And often they say, you know what? I don't know. I don't know why I'm here. Okay. But it's my session and I'm here, like we're supposed to meet, etc. Let's do this. And so, yeah. And then as we just talk, before you know it, it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. In other words, these things have been blocking me. And that's the word, block. Okay. Because we think with our own minds, I myself included, all of us. And so we need a little bit of twisting to be able to see things differently. And that's no matter what, whether you're taking care of aging parents, whether you're taking care of a partner or yourself for that matter. All of a sudden an illness kicks in and your whole life falls apart without any intention. I don't have to tell you. Well, it's one of these, it's who can you talk about? I know I personally have problems, and I'm going into health here, but if you say, I have problems with scoliosis, and every now and again, the arthritis kicks in, right? Well, if I'm to mention to my dear beloved husband that I'm not feeling well, he'll get upset. I don't mention it to anybody, okay? Well, the same is with work problems or other things as well. Everyone will tell you what they think is the right thing. And when I go back to that
and they
woman,
mean well. That's
of
the
course,
thing. So you hate to disappoint
of course,
them.
and you don't want to hurt them, right? And each and every person has more advice. But I'm going back to that person that you mentioned, who is, the president of this company. It also is a family business. She's the one that hires the C-suite. She's the one that, is on top of the chain, the top of the food chain. And she's the one that does an amazing job. And you're right. Where did it start from? It was a family business. It started with landscaping, very simple. People were gardeners. So what she always loved to do was planting. Okay. And so what happens is, you say, as you start going higher and higher up the food chain, I'm not saying she should be a gardener, but what I am saying is we can't lose touch. And so even when you're on top, okay, it's so important for the presidents. I mean, people know that, for members of the C-suite, for everyone a part of the company to feel that they're part of this family. This is something, when you're in a law firm or anywhere else, our labels can take over. And that's what I think you were talking about. And it's so we don't have time. So what coaching does is this time you've put for yourself. And sometimes it's not an hour. Sometimes it could be 30 minutes. Sometimes they'll ask me a question, and although I've blocked off the time, it's, Bev, I've had enough. I have to implement this right away. Okay. Because when you're working with people who have ideas, and really smart people, they don't sit around for an hour. Time is precious, So, or ideas for a book, or you have the ideas, but where do I start? Yes, you can get a book coach. You can do it, all these kind of things. But then it's like, who am I? All these internal questions get answered. And where do they get answered? They get answered through the right questions that you're asked, so that you can put what you want and what you can foresee, a vision for yourself, for your future, rather than, oh, in 5 years, I will be retired. It's like, retired for what? Okay, I'm going to be able to travel. All these loosey-goosey ideas, without saying, is that really for me? And we have plans along the road. We're always told, for education, you get married, you have kids, blah, 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 whatever it is, to create whatever life you want. And then once you've created it, you can say, did I do that right? And I think we all kind of look at that and say, did I do that right? Should I have done it? Or all of a sudden you get a kick in the curb and you say, oh my gosh, I didn't expect this to happen. And the anger and the resentment that you might feel. But it's not about a support group. It's not about telling people what to do. Okay. And it's definitely not about, as you said, being, your rah-rah cheerleader.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have to hear what
Mhm.
people are not going to tell you.
Mhm.
And that is what a good coach does.
Right. Right.
You know, it's you are their friend,
Mhm.
but you're there with a truth.
Mhm.
And the truth does come for you,
Mhm.
but what you're doing
Mhm.
is you're planting a
Mhm.
seed
Mhm.
that they've never thought
Mhm.
would happen, and it does sprout
Mhm.
because it was there in the first place.
Right.
So it's not
Mhm.
easy, it's not for everybody,
Mhm.
but what it
Mhm.
is if you want to grow,
Mhm.
how do you grow if you're among
Mhm.
people that are going to tell you the exact same
Mhm.
thing,
Right.
right?
Yeah, Bev, you're doing a great job. You should be thrilled. Yeah, all those things. Yeah, I mean, that's nice. And that strokes our ego. But
And
is
it's
it
not
really
appreciative,
accomplishing
right?
anything?
Like,
Mhm.
are you
Mhm.
appreciating how far
Mhm.
you cut?
Mhm.
It's like telling somebody that doesn't feel beautiful, they're beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know I'm beautiful, but you
Mhm.
feel it.
Mhm.
Okay. But it's not about beauty. I mean, that's really
Right.
kind of
Mhm.
trite what we're talking about.
Mhm.
But it's the same thing with the
Mhm.
success.
Mhm.
And as you age, we're always told that we should just scale down. We
Mhm.
should start being invisible,
Mhm.
leave it to younger people,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
When,
Go
that,
volunteer.
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
And we
Mhm.
need
Right.
volunteers,
Mhm.
right? But what it also is if that is a purpose
Mhm.
and you feel that
Mhm.
this is, your calling, by all means.
Mhm.
But if you're saying, I am
Mhm.
volunteering and I'm doing a good job,
Mhm.
but so what,
Mhm.
you know, then you have to have more.
Mhm. Right.
And it's that
Mhm. Mhm.
conversation. It's the conversation that I'm having with right now with a woman who is divorced in later life. She's in her
Mhm.
60s. Now we're talking 60s.
Mhm.
Children have gone. They're not, in the same country anymore.
Mhm.
Her business, which she shared with her husband, now
Mhm.
they're selling. So
Mhm.
what do you do when you wake up in the morning? Where are you going to go? And it's like finding your identity, your new identity,
Mhm.
which is what is it?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
what it is it's creating one.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now it doesn't matter. The money isn't an object. What do you love?
Mhm.
What will fulfill you?
Mhm. Mhm.
And for me,
Mhm.
it's so fulfilling
Mhm.
to see that go and
Mhm.
grow
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
that's the most
Right.
creative,
Mhm. Mhm.
the most creative journey you can go on is really yourself.
Right. And there's two words that I want to talk about. One is success and one is fulfilled. Because success is often defined by the outward world, right? And again, there's nothing wrong with it, but fulfilled is internal.
Right.
And I've shared this on the program before when I had my 10-year high school reunion. That was a while ago, right? But we had somebody, because a lot of times at reunions you do the awards, right? Who came the furthest, who has the most kids, whatever, all those things. And one person said, I think an award should be who is the most successful. Now we were 28-ish, right? And I looked at her and I said, how on earth are we going to define that?
Right.
For her, it was strictly money. And so
Right.
then I said, okay, we're going to ask people what their income is. I mean, this was just, and I told her, I said, the person who makes 100,000 a year may be the most unhappy person. And the person who has 4 kids and, all those various things might be the most fulfilled, right? I said, success is such an outward definition, and we fall under that, right? Did we check all those boxes? But fulfilled is what really, is there. And like a friend of mine was, posted on Facebook that her daughter is in her senior year at college. And you know, that to me is something to be proud of. And she's done a great job raising her kids. That is something that is fulfilling. Has she been successful in her career? Well, a lot of people would say no, because she's kind of gone from job to job. She's not held the big positions, but she's fulfilled. But again, that's outward. Those are her kids. But yeah, she knows she has done a good job, and she is ready to go on to the next thing. And so she is kind of thinking, now what? Now what am I going to do? And looking forward to it. And I think that's the thing, is sometimes, like you were saying with your dad, who was forced into retirement. Are we looking forward, or are we looking backward?
Well, I think you can have both success and be fulfilled,
Yes.
but success comes from you. I've spoken, like I said, to people with not one private plane, two private planes. I mean, seriously, it's a business. It's become a business, another business. Um, but the point is, um, it's for them to take a look. Other people will say, oh, he's the most successful person, look at how much they have.
They've got 5 cars and all of that stuff.
But when you speak to him, he will talk about the problems within his relationships with the family and everything else, and what it costs him to be that. And it's a journey, and we all have journeys, and I don't think we should label whether it's success or, our society honors people that have a lot of money. I mean, that's what we do. But people are people, Deb. And if we start wearing that as the badge, like I am a lawyer, like the story I gave, then it becomes very complicated when you are not happy and you're just doing a job,
Right.
So, but if it is your calling, and if you love what you're doing, and you are monetarily successful, then hey, click, that's wonderful. But everything stops, and that's the point too. The job will stop. However, life does go on, and you can't just be your job. And if you are, it becomes pretty shallow. And that's when depression comes in, because you start feeling, I have no purpose. So it's about constantly building from where you are. Not that you're unhappy with what you do.
Could be fabulous.
Yeah, but you're just building. And that's where the what's next come. You're not throwing out anything. You're just evolving to another level. And the other level is whatever that level is. And it could be a monetary level. It's usually both, I have to tell you. When you are, I use the word authentic, I use the word aligned. I use that kind of stuff all the time. But when you say the right things because it comes from your heart, people get it. Okay? And yes, your team will get it. The people that work with you and for you will get it. Your children will get it. You strip away that ego. If it comes from you, even if there's arguments, people understand. Even in tough negotiations, if you listen, if you know how to give the right language back, because you've heard what they really are wanting to say, they will comply. And you could say, yeah, you work with psychology, so you should know that. Yeah. What about an ordinary person? That's not true. Okay. The fact is, when I speak to an individual or somebody that comes to me, as they make the connection, it does come from them. And that you end up saying the right thing, and you end up getting the result that you've wanted. It's crazy. But it works, Deb.
Right. And it is about authenticity, and we do throw that word around an awful lot, right? But I tell people it's also the airplane rule. And I might have talked about this on your podcast. When the mask drops down, you put it on yourself first and then help others. And I think that is hard for people to go, well, wait a minute. No, I need to help others first. No, if we're not taking care of ourselves first, then we're not going to be able to take care of others completely. I mean, yeah, you might, back to the analogy, you might save that person by them getting that mask. But if you die because you didn't get yours on, then what good is it going to be? And again, it's not being selfish. When you've taken care of yourself, then you are better able to take care of others. We've talked about, and I talked about this on your podcast, my cancer diagnosis, right? And one of the ways where I take care of myself is I know when to say no. And I tell people, no, not going to happen. Sometimes they fuss about that. But I also know I can push it. I can keep doing what is expected, but then usually then I have an issue. I had treatment last week as we're recording this. And so I told everybody, I said, the computer is off this weekend. There's nothing that can't wait until Monday, but I have to rest. And one person pushed back, and it was like, you can push as hard as you want, but it's not going to happen, because I'm not going to push myself to the point of making myself sick by doing that. And sometimes it's, maybe it's, I need 10 minutes a day, just 10 minutes all to myself. Right? And it's funny, I just watched a video on that this morning. How to make a Southern mama happy. It was the funniest thing in the world, right? And one of the things in there was, when mama says she needs 10 minutes, you better give her 10 minutes. Right? And because, you can keep pushing, but yeah, ultimately there's going to be an issue. And so it is, I think the biggest thing is it's about knowing yourself. And that's really hard, because we have been taught, especially as women, to put others first, to put the kids first, to put the spouse first, all of those various things. But no, if we don't put ourselves first, we're not going to ultimately be the best we can be for others.
Absolutely. And what I'm hearing as you're talking is we think with our own minds, of course, okay? And success that you've built can be outgrown. And we don't realize that until we go to, I don't know, I'm just doing it. It's by rote. It's not thrilling me. Or I'm overdoing it. Like, I'm thinking of a woman that has a coaching business, and she coaches executives, and she says, I've worked so hard to build this. I came from a working class family, where work was really the ethic. My dad got up every day. I've never seen him sick a day in his life. I do this all the time. I'm looking at success as money all the time. So I'm constantly working. And with coaching, she says, she realized it's transition. Transition is what I do. You've reached a certain level. Okay. It's time now to transition, not your business. It's how you think.
Right.
And your thinking stems from the past. Your thinking stems from what we know. And that's why, going back to me, what I knew was to help people coming from my family of origin. What she knew was to work. And does she have to? No. She's got the money. She is successful. But why is she continuing to kill herself? Yes, you can designate. And guess what? You will get more work, because you will put it on your plate and just keep designating.
Right.
So that's where mindset shifts come in. That's where success can become a cage. That's where you have to start asking yourself, what is the problem here? I don't see the problem. I'm successful. But you start taking a look and you say, but I'm so tired. Do I want to really work like this? And then you can also say, yeah, but I wish I could retire. But then what will I do? Well, you can do both. You can do things differently if you change your mindset, know what you want, know what you love, keep doing what you know and love, but you transition into doing it another way. Much like I transitioned out of my office, what you see is what you get. I work totally online. I work specifically with clients who I admire. And my life has just gotten so much easier and so much more fulfilling by just shifting differently. And of course, with the podcast and meeting people like you, and Life changes,
Mhm.
but we can build a life that works for us regardless,
Right.
as long as we're able to
Mhm.
shift gears and say, this isn't working. Maybe I should think of another way of doing it. But you can't think about that way in your own head. And if you ask someone else, they are your friends, they are your peers,
Mhm.
they will give back
Mhm.
or give you advice that doesn't come from your heart.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
yes, success can very much be a cage,
Mhm.
and not even knowing that you're telling yourself the truth
Mhm.
because it comes from your own thinking. You need
Right.
someone
Mhm.
to balance things
Mhm.
off.
Mhm. Right. Well, oh my gosh, we've only got a couple minutes left, and this has been so much fun and so enlightening, I'm hoping for others. And so for somebody who is going, "Hmm, I feel stuck," thinking, what is next?" All those various things. How do people find you, and what are the services that you provide? And I love that you mentioned that it's online because you're in Canada.
Right.
And so but yeah, so how do people find you?
Well, people find me like this, Deb. They find me on podcasts. They find me in writing. I'm a cool life thought leader. You'll find me on LinkedIn. You'll have the links there.
Mhm,
You
mhm,
find me on my website, Reinvent Impossible.
mhm,
You give a call, you can DM.
mhm,
I'm all over the board,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
And what I always invite you to do is not to dismiss your feelings.
mhm.
If it feels off, it is off,
Right, yeah, and
you
there's
know?
nothing wrong with that.
Not at all.
Mhm,
And that is the moment that you say, I need something more.
mhm,
So if it's off, or even if
mhm,
it's not off, if there's a point in your life where you say, you know what? I don't know.
mhm,
I'm lost. I'm lost because my husband, I had to put him in a home or
mhm,
whatever that
mhm,
transition is,
mhm,
I really invite anyone to just reach out, a
mhm,
15-minute conversation, no agenda, and bring with you your biggest problem
mhm,
because the problem that keeps
mhm,
you up at night
mhm.
is where we start with the conversation.
I love
And
it.
we don't have to continue working together, but you can certainly
Mhm,
get to
mhm,
a road
mhm,
that gets you
mhm.
unstuck, if you will.
I love it. Well, we have to continue this discussion, and so I will have you on again because it is something that is happening to everybody, right? And men, women, and probably even youngsters, right? But it is, something that happens, for people over 50, over 60, because they are at that transition time. And so, I would love to have you on again. But until then, what are the final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
My final thought is go with your gut. If it feels right, it is. If it feels wrong, you know what? Step out. Step out. Follow your heart. Do not dismiss what you already know.
Oh my gosh, such wise words. I'm Deb Creer. I've been having such a delightful conversation with Beverly Glazer, who is the founder of Reinvent Impossible. Those links will all be in the show notes. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.